Our next inductee is Marce Wilson. Please look at the video board.
Marce Wilson, baseball, 1994 to 1995. Marce Wilson was a 2-year member of the baseball program at Bellevue University. He came to BU after 2 years at Eastern Oklahoma State College and was a mainstay atop the Bruin rotation. Wilson earned numerous individual and team honors, including being named First Team All-District in 1994, First Team All-MCAC honors in 1995, and was the 1995 MCAC Player of the Year. The team competed in the 1994 Region 3 tournament before capturing the 1995 Region 3 crown and qualifying for the program's first ever NAIA World Series. Behind Wilson's pitching prowess, Bellevue won 5 straight elimination games en route to the university's first NAIA National Championship. That season, Wilson went 11-2 on the hill and struck out 128 batters in 121 innings of work. Wilson earned his degree from Bellevue before going on to earn a master's from the University of Phoenix. He is currently the head baseball coach and a physical education teacher in the Murray School District in Utah. Marce and his wife of 26 years, Ivy, have 2 sons, Vaughn and Cooper. Among his stats from the 1995 season, his 18 starts are the most ever by a Bruin in a single season.
When Marce first came to Bellevue, he was a roommate. We ended up teaming up together the first fall. Derek Hope and I were the first couple of Utah kids who had made the transition to Bellevue the year before, and that next year there were about 4 or 5 more that came out, and Marce was, the other legend that came out that I was excited to get to know. I had known Marce in high school. I had never played against him. I had heard of his legend. I would read the newspaper articles. Marce was just this mythical figure when I first met him. And I come to meet him and he was just kind of this little stocky, I'm like, this was Marce? I'm like, man, I thought he'd be bigger. Then we got on the field and we always had a little bit of a competition, filling each other out and being roommates, where he was just a bulldog. He was very talented, but he may have not been the most physically, biggest guy. But man, when he stepped on that mound, he was just a force. We called him the bulldog. You could tell when it was game day for Marce, you just kind of let him be.
Well, I had the pleasure of getting to live with Marce for two years as my roommate. You knew right away that Marce was invested in his craft. Marce was a worker. He wasn't about doing anything unless there was purpose behind it, intention behind it. He wanted to know the why to the what. And so as a result of that, that was what I got to watch up close and personal, was his ability to stay focused and disciplined and really focused forward with his eyes on the prize. And it was all about, if it makes me better, I'm all in. If it doesn't make me better, I got no time for you. So he was chasing greatness from the very beginning. So
in that first fall, we would always host a tournament. Marce, when he was getting ready for his start, came up and told me, he's like, I'm gonna strike out more than you this game, watch. And he did.
And nothing was getting in the way of Marce's success and Marce chasing greatness. And he just was not interested in mediocrity. He had no time for it. And I learned a lot from that and that demeanor and those traits and those qualities. And he was never about excuses.
In high school, college, even pro ball, there's guys who have talent. There's guys that have ability. There's guys that just can close their eyes and be good. And Marce was just a flat competitor. When he got the ball, whether he had his good stuff, as he would call it, his A, B, or C stuff, even with his C stuff, he was going to go out and beat you. He just pounded the zone. He was just relentless. He worked quick. He worked fast. He just wanted to get right after you, and he won. I mean, he didn't care how he won. He just wanted to win, which kind of epitomized that whole team, the whole roster, the whole attitude, of everybody's out just to find a way to win. When you gave him the ball, you knew you were going to get 7, 8, 9 innings of just flat dominance. Marce, buddy, it's been a long time. Always loved having you as a roommate and a teammate, and just couldn't be more excited for you. It's such a well-deserved honor and probably long overdue for you, because you were such a key for that World Series team, and you're just an amazing guy. Couldn't be more happy for you. I know this means a lot. Love you, buddy.
Marce, man, we shared a lot of time together, intimate time, man, just talking, getting to know one another. Man, I don't exchange that time with you and the relationship we've built over those years. And we look 25, 30 years later, and man, I know that you're a friend that I can count on, and I cannot be more proud of you and what you've been able to achieve for us and the teammate you were to me and to all of the guys. Man, I love you. I'm proud of you. A lot of people think they deserve things in this world, man. You do deserve it, and you deserve it because you earned it. And man, I couldn't be more proud. I love you, brother. I love all the Bruins watching. Miss all you guys. Go Bruins.
Please welcome one of the best pitchers I've ever seen here at Bellevue, Marce Wilson. It's hard to be such a competitor and then have to stand up here in a suit and tie. But I wouldn't trade this experience for the world. First, a few people I'd like to acknowledge is first, obviously, all those associated with the Bellevue Hall of Fame. Thank you for putting a few drinks down and marking the box next to my name. I appreciate that. Doreen, for this wonderful dinner. Thank you. Trish, Wonder Woman. I don't know how she does it. Everything you do to keep our baseball team of nearly 30 years still intact. We appreciate it. Thank you. I'd like to thank my family for making the trip out to Omaha or Bellevue with me, my son Cooper, my son Vaughn, and my wife Ivy. She doesn't get a lot of vacation time, and so when you tell your wife you're going on vacation to Bellevue, there you are. And then you tell her you're going to golf in the Marce golf tournament on your vacation as one of your days off. But she's here. She was here when I was here. Ronnie, thanks for making this weekend enjoyable, opening up your home, your time, to welcome me and my family here. Jason, I could go on. I could beat Tim Studite's record up here, 48 minutes, just talking about Jarvis alone, but I won't. I'll be more like Frank Thomas. Rumor has it when he was inducted to Hall of Fame, he listed over 100 people he'd like to thank. I won't do that either. Fellow inductees, Jamie, Joe, Casey, and Ed, congratulations on your honor. I'm sure it's well deserved. I only knew, really, I don't think I know any of you when I was here. There wasn't softball yet. We've already discussed how many sports were not here at Bellevue when I was here. If you wanted to be entertained, I don't know what you did when I was here. There's only basketball to go to. So I don't know how we did it. We just lived down the road here in Betts Apartments, and there was some entertainment within those apartments for sure. But If I don't want them to shut off the microphone, I'd better not talk about those stories. You know, in the Hollywood movie Field of Dreams, John Kinsella walks up to his son, Ray Kinsella, and asks him, is this heaven? Which we all know Ray replies, no, it's Iowa. And then John Kinsella walks away for a while, turns around and tells him, you know, hey, this sure felt like heaven. And then the movie goes on, and I'll touch on that just a little bit later. Not too much later. I'm not going to set a record up here. I'm a lot better talking when I can just flow with it with my students, with my teams. But I won't take your whole evening. 3 things I want to touch on tonight. One is, how did I even get to Bellevue? And 2, just some memories I had while I was here. And 3, I'm going to kind of put in a nutshell, kind of sum up how our team won that '95 national championship, in my opinion. First, how did I even get to Bellevue? I think it started when I was a little kid. I just wanted to throw everything. I wanted to throw crab apples at trucks. I wanted to throw snowballs at trucks going down the street. I wanted to throw rocks walking home from school. I wanted to throw everything. I wanted to throw the tennis ball against the garage door, knock out the door panels, and get yelled at by my dad. As long as there was a loud thud on the other end, I wanted to throw it, because I love making sounds with things that came out of my hand. When I started playing Little League football in 4th grade, after asking my 4th grade classmates, because I didn't know how to play football, I went to the first practice 2 weeks late, and the coach put me at running back. After the practice was over, I asked him if the running back got to throw the ball. He said no. I said, I want to throw the ball. So the next practice, he let me throw the ball. And for 9 years, I was a quarterback. I just wanted to throw. I had no interest in running the ball. When I got to high school, I became a catcher and a pitcher. And you're not supposed to do that. But I want to throw the ball. If I'm not throwing it to the catcher, I want to throw it back to the pitcher. I just want to throw the ball. I did that my freshman and sophomore year, and then I moved to third base, pitcher. The tread on the tire was starting to come off a little bit. It was getting a little worn out. But at least I still got to throw the ball as a pitcher. And then I went to college at Eastern Oklahoma State. Many don't know this, but I went there as a third baseman. I didn't have any offers out of high school. The only reason I ended up at junior college is one Sunday morning I was laying in my bed, and Coach Kershell from the University of Oklahoma called my home on a landline phone with a big 20-foot cord. And he said, I heard about you from a recruiting letter. Back in the day, you had to write to colleges and send a letter to the coaches. And then they would always ask, hey, do you know anybody in your neighborhood or communities that are good enough to go to college that aren't going? I guess my name ended up on one of those letters from a player from an opposing team. I didn't know that. And it got into the hands of the University of Oklahoma's coach, Gary Kershell. He called me and said, I'm going to send you to Eastern Oklahoma State. I called, did some research. So I went to Eastern Oklahoma State. And as a third baseman, one weekend, I was still playing third base. There was 4 of us. And I kept looking at the pitchers. And you know what I was thinking? I wasn't happy at third base. I went and told the coach, Coach, I want to pitch. He says, you pitch? I said, yeah, I pitch. I don't want to play third base. I want to throw things. And from that day on, in the fall of 1991, I never played another position other than pitcher in college. And I would never take it back. So I threw some things at Eastern Oklahoma State for a while. Got homesick down in Wilburton. If you've never been to Wilburton, Oklahoma, I convinced my wife to take a trip to Bellevue for her vacation. Convince your significant other to go to Wilburton for a vacation. You can Google map it if you want, if it's even on the map. But I got kind of homesick there, and I just went home, nowhere really to go. Snow College back home found out I was back in town, offered me an option to go play for them. So I went to Snow College, and I let the coach know, because he remembered me in high school as a third baseman. I let the coach know. I said, Coach Anderson, I'm going to pitch. And we didn't have a long conversation. I just went there to pitch. After the Snow College, the season was coming to an end. And I had nowhere to go. I'm a sophomore. First of all, I didn't even know I was going to ever go to college. I didn't know what college baseball was out of high school. I was a 17-year-old just with no plans. Toward the end of Snow College, we're playing a team called Dixie Junior College in southern Utah. 4 or 5 of those kids from Utah that came out here were from Dixie, maybe even more of them. Some of them went back home. Dixie was a national power, a team that had the 35 home run kids, draft picks everywhere. And they were telling me, I had a few friends on that team, they were telling me how all of them are going to go to Bellevue. First of all, remember, I went from Wilburton to Ephraim, Utah. Combined population of both cities, 4,000, probably. They're not cities, I guess they're towns. I don't know what they are. And all these kids are telling me they're going to go back to Bellevue. And here I am feeling like I'm left out again. I have nowhere to go. But I knew Dixie was on our schedule. And I knew they were coming to our team to play. Our team wasn't good. Snow, we weren't very good. I think we were the second worst team in the conference. But I knew they were coming to our place on a May afternoon. And I knew I had nowhere to go. I pitched against them that day. When I say studs, I'm talking probably that entire team either was drafted or went to the Division I, except for the ones who turned down Division I to come back to Bellevue. I pitched against that team. We went extra innings. I think we went 10, maybe 11 innings. Try to guess who never left the mound. The coach tried to come take me off the mound. I was well over 200 pitches. Wasn't going to happen. I had to beat those guys to get to Bellevue. I had to impress those kids enough to tell them, hey, as Jarvis would say, there's a short, stocky bulldog you might want to look at that doesn't go to Dixie. Well, we ended up losing. We lost 5-4. And I remember after that game was over, I went and sat on the porch stairs of our athletic training center, and I was devastated because the Bellevue kids from Dixie, they get to ride off into the sunset and go play 2 more years of college, and I go nowhere. Then there was a little Italian guy named Lee Lawley, who just happened to be at that game because his grandson played for Dixie. And he's the one that told Bellevue about all these Dixie kids. He just happened to be at that game. He walked over to me at the porch, on that porch, and I'm just sitting there. I don't know this guy. I mean, picture a 5'3" Italian guy come to talk to you who's 60 years old after you just lost a 200-pitch game. And he introduced himself. I'm Lee Lawley from Bellevue University. I don't know why, I guess he was. He gave himself a title. He said, well, I'd like to offer you a scholarship to go back and play with Bellevue. It took me about 15 seconds to say, I'm in. I'm in. So sometimes you win when you lose. And that's how I got here, it was always because, like Jason said, I just wanted to compete. I just wanted to throw things, and when I threw something, I wanted it to be really loud on the other end. And for me in college, that was always a catcher's glove. So when a coach came up to me to ask me to throw a changeup, I'm like, you're talking to the wrong guy. If my catcher came out to talk to me, would call a changeup. This guy can hit fastballs. You're talking to the wrong guy. So I learned how to throw my curveball fast. I learned how to throw my slider fast. Everything was fast. Everything was hard. There was no changeups. I think I threw one changeup in my entire college career. I teach it to my kids that I coach, but not for me. That's not for me. And so That's how I ended up back here at Bellevue. Kind of an interesting story. The next thing I know, I was in the passenger seat of Nick DeLuca's Honda CRX, and we headed east on I-80 to 1,000 miles away to Omaha, Nebraska. Came over here, veered over here to Bellevue, and that's where we stayed for a couple years. And interesting story. Now, just a few memories I have while I'm here. I'm not going to set a record of time up here. A few things I remember here. There's a Bellevue Fitness Club. I don't even know if it still exists, but they gave us the key. Hopefully nobody here is in management of Bellevue Fitness Club. They gave us the key to work out at Bellevue. Me, Craig Giannino, and our other roommate, Chris Pratt. And then we had some other teammates come with us once in a while because we got there at 4:30 in the morning to open up that facility with that key to work out before school started. I remember those memories. Awfully cold at 4:30 in the morning here in Bellevue. I remember walking down Betts Road with the wind chill of 20 below or something like that, so frozen. I turned back to go back to our apartment. I got back there, my key wouldn't open the door. So I was frozen to school and frozen out of my apartment. I remember that. I remember playing catch with Jason Jarvis outside of our apartment just before fall, my junior year. We were playing catch. I remember asking Jarvie, "Do you think I have a chance here? Do you think I have a chance to be a starter at Bellevue?" And he goes, "Yes." He goes, "Yes." So thanks, Jay. I remember Chad Hopkins. Chad Hopkins, one of our teammates at first base, and calling everybody cuz. I said, man, this kid, great personality on our team, calling everybody cuz. I always singing the song Mother from Danzig. If you haven't heard that song before, we'll listen to it. He's always hollering that song. I remember Jason Jarvis getting his teeth knocked out in a game and getting flown back, I think, the next day for emergency surgery. And then losing our starting catcher our senior year, Brandon Elgren, to a hand injury. That was pretty devastating to our team. I remember Derek Hope, a roommate of mine. He had a white 4 tempo. And one night I was just in pain. I said, "Derek, I'm in pain." And he goes, "Let's get to the hospital." And I'm thinking, hospital, flat, Bellevue? You can't. In Salt Lake, you see mountains. You know where you're going. Here, I don't know where we're going. He gets in and he takes off down the road. We're in this white tempo going as fast as we can, about 1 o'clock in the morning. I feel this pain in my side. It's getting worse and worse and worse. I opened the door to the passenger side, and I was going to jump out at about 55 miles an hour. I remember him grabbing my arm and telling me to lock the door. I didn't know that would be the first of 12 kidney stones that I would experience. But I remember that night very well. I found out that night where Papillion Hospital or emergency care was. I remember the back seat of Coach Evans's car was an absolute nightmare. It was a disaster. You couldn't see the seat coverings. But as a head coach now of almost 20 years, I know how and every other coach in here knows how your car gets just destroyed. Sitting at Don Roddy Field, listening to Andy Lewis call the games into a tape recorder. Keith Marco's spot-on voice impression of our legend Lloyd Lurvey. Nobody gave a better impression than Lloyd. If you don't know Lloyd Lurvey, look him up. I feel bad for you. That guy he's a legend. I remember coming home from practice and being glued to the TV watching a white Ford Bronco get chased down a California highway one day and being glued to the TV for months on end. I remember, and some of you remember this, I remember, if you can't hear me, I apologize. This microphone is going in and out. But anyway, unless that's like the Oscars when they tell you it's going in and out, it's like a signal. I don't know. I know I'll never end up at the Oscars. They'll never let me in. I remember waiting until after 10 o'clock p.m. to call my then girlfriend, so the rate was 10 cents a minute. We didn't have cell phones back there. Our phone bill was $200, $300 a month. I remember waiting until 10 o'clock to give her a call back in Salt Lake. Remember our teammate Dusty Stauffer, who looked like the Incredible Hulk. This kid was something. He was a specimen. I remember Aaron Ford's. I don't know what pact these kids have. They had a pact if we went to the World Series, they're going to get a tattoo. I don't know how many of them sold their soul to the devil with that pact, but Aaron Ford went and got one. I don't know if he still has it. He's got a tattoo on his back. It's got to be this big. I remember that tattoo. I'll never forget that tattoo. I remember watching our two lefties, Craig Giannino and Mike McQueen, rack up saves on the mound. These guys were about 5'4", 5'5", and they come out and they just dominate people from the left side. I'll never forget those two kids. I remember watching Dave Carter steal over 50 bases in 1994. If you're not familiar with baseball that well, stealing 50 bases is just borderline ridiculous at a college level. You just don't get that many chances. I remember watching Jerry Hunter's curveball, just buckle batters. Even when they knew the curveball was coming, buckled their knees. Jerry Hunter he had one of the best curveballs I've ever seen. I remember Ron Weiss over here. We had to practice at Exarban's parking lot quite often because we had nowhere else to go when it snowed. So they plowed, Coach Evans knew they plowed Exarban, so we went out there with the pitcher's mounds and all this stuff, and we had to practice on the asphalt. And that guy over there, one of your Hall of Fame members, slid into home plate on the asphalt. And that's when I knew this guy's a legend. I mean, not only does he look like Babe Ruth, I mean, he plays the game hard. So I'll never forget that. And finally, just being around my teammates and so forth. And last, I want to talk about just quickly is how did Bellevue actually win that 1995 national championship, in my opinion? Well, in 1994, we got close. We had a better team in 1994 than we had in 1995. But in 1994, we went down to the regionals. And there's kind of a metaphor we use in life about, more only in society, of how many people are in the wagon versus how many people are pulling the wagon. Raise your hand if you've heard kind of that metaphor used. You know, it's out there. But if I'm going to use that kind of an analogy toward our team, is in 1994, we had way too many players just in the wagon. They would jump off once in a while, do some work, and then get back on. We had our constants that were always pulling, Jason, Ronnie, our coaching staff, and some of the local players that were from the Bellevue, Omaha area. They were always grinding for Bellevue baseball. They were always pulling. But a lot of us would jump back in the wagon when our job was done, and we just kept making that wagon heavier and harder to pull, and we didn't realize that at 19 years old. So we're down in the regionals, and we lose to a team we probably should have beaten. And I can only say that's because our junior class that ended up winning the national championship the next year, too many of us were in that wagon. And I'll always just feel terrible for you guys about that. Then 1995 comes, and all those wagon sitters were back in the wagon again. Because we played for Bellevue. We thought we were special. We thought we were cool. We played for Bellevue, and we had 21 games that year decided by one run. We didn't win them all. We won most of them. But 21 games by one run with the talent we had was ludicrous. We should have been destroying some of those teams. But it's because, again, someone jump off the wagon and pull, and then others jump back on the wagon. And it just always stayed heavy. Somehow we made it through the districts and the conference, and we get to the regionals. And in regionals, we play 5 games. 3 of those games decided by, you guessed it, 1 run. We lose the second game there by 1 run. And then we have to play elimination games. We have to win by 1 run. Then we won again by 1 run to get to Bellevue's first World Series. We get to the World Series, and I just sensed bad things were going to happen. I just felt that we had too many people on that wagon again, patting themselves on the back to get into the World Series. I pitched the first game that day, the first game of the World Series. I pitched 9 innings. I'm sure my pitch count was 880. I don't care. It's up there. I just want to throw things. Remember, I don't care. Just let me throw. I remember Coach Evans wanted to take me out a few times, and I said, you turn around. But we're winning 1-0. We have a no-hitter going through 8 1/3 innings. We're going to beat Alabama Birmingham, or Birmingham Southern, whatever the name is. But fortunate, a few mistakes, and we lose that game 2-1. And for anybody, any coach or any player in here who's ever experienced losing the first game of a tournament, you know it's an uphill battle through the loser's bracket. Again, we lose 2-1, and I'm looking at our team thinking, here we are, the same place we were in 1994 in the regionals. Too many people relying on just a few people to pull the wagon. That night we met with Coach Evans. He sat us down, and he laid out a plan. He laid out a pitching plan and say, Jerry Hunter's going to pitch this game. Wilson's going to pitch this game. These guys are going to pitch these games. He lays out a plan. So we get all pumped up. We're excited to execute this plan. We go out the next game. We're playing Wilmington, Delaware, and we should have smoked them. We get up on them, and then Jerry goes out there and gives up 6 runs in 1 inning. This plan that Coach Evans laid out was starting to unfoil. We have about, I don't know, let's just say 5 or 6 players pulling that wagon now. We still have 15, 20 in the wagon. They're all relying on Jerry Hunter to get the job done. He gives up 6 runs. I remember Coach Evans walks out to pull him. Usually when the head coach comes out to get you, you're walking back with him. Well, the person that walked back to the dugout was Mike Evans. It wasn't Jerry Hunter. Jerry Hunter stayed out there. After giving up 6 runs in 1 inning, Jerry Hunter stayed out there. Final score, Bellevue 9, Wilmington 6. There was not one more run given up. And at that point is when our baseball team, one by one, started getting their butts off that wagon. When Jerry Hunter took it upon himself to say, Coach, know your role, get back in the dugout, we got this. And Jerry went out there and did that. And then if you watch the highlight video of our national championship, you'll start seeing Jay Rubin diving for balls up against the wall into rocks. Sean Nason making diving catches in center field up against the walls, falling over. Pazuski throwing people out from right field. An unsung hero, Craig Strain, a catcher who wasn't even supposed to be our catcher because Brandon got hurt. Craig Strain back there catching I think he caught every inning. You see Blake Bryce from Texas hit balls off the foul pole. You see the late Casey McMillan, 5'6", hit home runs. You'll see him sliding the home plate, snapping at the catcher. You'll see Chad Hopkins with a broken foot hit a massive home run in the championship game. You'll see Nick DeLuca hit back-to-back-to-back home runs. You'll see Chick Gatzmeyer, whose father passed away the week before, get on the mound against the most dominant NAIA baseball program in the history of NAIA baseball, Lewis and Clark. This kid doesn't pitch for us very often. His father dies the week before. He gets on the mound, and he beats him. Everybody just started jumping off the wagon. Everybody was pulling. Everybody started pulling. I got to start a second game that week, like 3 or 4 days later. And then the championship game comes again. I start that game. That's a lot of pitching. But again, I don't care because I just want to throw things. I'm pitching against Cumberland, Tennessee. I think I'm going to the 4th or 5th inning. And we always knew how fast we were pitching because we had signs. And I was always used to pitching a certain mile an hour. And in about the 4th or 5th inning, I see my mile per hours are down quite a bit. Again, the tread was coming off the tires. I had all I could do at that point, for the first time in my life, for the absolute first time in my life, when a coach came out to get me, I walked back with him. Because that is what was best for the team. I knew my days of throwing stuff and making loud sounds at the other end was over. That was it. I walked back out with Coach Evans off the field for the first time ever letting a coach do that. And there's one person sitting in that wagon. It wasn't me. I started pulling. We had one person left. And when that person walked on the field and I gave him the ball, he said, "Give me that crap." You can't swear at a Hall of Fame induction. But that person's name was Don Kevanimi, a Bellevue local. He took the ball, said that phrase, and threw 5 shutout innings in the championship game and ended up at the bottom of a dog pile 5 innings later. At that point, there was nobody not pulling that wagon. And it took every single one of us to win that national championship. And that's my opinion. I think that's how we won it. And I'm sorry to go over time, but if I read everything I had, I would set a record. It's all on my phone too. I didn't even pick up my phone. I'm so passionate up right now. I get so worked, I could toss this podium. I get so worked up. When I talk about Bellevue and this baseball program and Bellevue and now this huge athletic program, it gets me pumped. I got 2 of my former players who play for Bellevue right now, and I'll keep sending them as much as I can. But I get so excited and so worked up thinking about what this university has done for me. And this big fat gold ring on my finger, it wouldn't happen if I didn't get the opportunity to come here and play. And so, to any of you who had anything to do with me being up here today or my experience here at Bellevue, I really appreciate you. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. Livergood, I saw you back there. Thanks for everything you did for our program. Congratulations on your induction here. Anyway, that's it. And I knew, back to the Field of Dreams. Last thing. Back to the Field of Dreams. When Ray Kinsella remember he told his dad, this is Iowa. If I could write my own Hollywood ending, it would have kind of went like this. After that championship was over, and after everybody dogpiled on Don Kevanimi, everybody's hugging, parents are down there, everybody's high-fiving, hugging. It's a great time. The lights started going down on the field, and people were starting to disperse into the parking lot. If I could write my own Hollywood ending, it would have went like this. Little Coach Evans staying on the field, wiggling his little fingers. He's on that field. I'm on the field. I walk up to him. I give him a big hug. Tell him thanks for everything. I walk away. I turn around. I say, Coach, is this heaven? And Coach Evans looks at me. He says, no, it's Iowa. We won that national championship in Sioux City. And then I walk away. I turn around. I say, you know, Coach, it sure feels like heaven. And then I'd walk out into the outfield and up on the highway, ready to go, is that little red Honda CRX with Nick DeLuca sitting in it. We give each other a high five. He shifts, and off we go westbound back to Utah with a national championship. That's how I write the story. Anyway, thank you. Appreciate you.